the average person on the surface. She is a chill girl that doesn't hold anything back. She isn't mean or anything, she's just honest with how she feels. She goes to the archery club during the day and defeats shadows at night to help out Cease. She doesn't do anything too crazy because she's just a simple girl. And honestly, I would have been happy with her character right there because she cares. She has a passion for what she does and is able to crack a few jokes along the way that made me even giggle on repeat playthroughs. However, it was the reason why she was here that makes her so compelling. Yukari is the daughter of Ichiro Takeba, who was a head researcher for the Kirijo group, and he ended up dying in an experiment 10 years prior to the events of the game. And with the hole that was left because of the loss of her father, her mother went around sleeping with other men to try to deal with the pain. When Yukari learned about this though, it made her upset. To her, it felt like her mom was trying to forget about her father. And this difference in opinion on how to grieve led them getting into a lot of fights all the time about it. And on top of this inner turmoil that was going on in their family, the general public was on their asses, judging them because of Yukari's father's involvement with the experiment. And because of the backlash, Yukari ended up having to move around a lot to try to get rid of the stigma. And during this process, she started to feel very isolated and alone. Her mother was leaving her out to dry, and she couldn't really make that many friends due to how often she moved around. To her, it felt like her dad was the only one who really loved and cared for her, which was reinforced by the note that she got before the events of the main story. Eventually, she was approached by the Kirijo group to join Cease, and Yukari saw this as an opportunity. She wanted to know the truth of what happened to her father, and this could be her chance to find out. So she joined in a heartbeat, although the whole time she was on edge. She could tell that Mitsuru was hiding something this whole time, causing her more and more anger. This person, who had the key to knowing why her father had to die, wasn't telling her anything. This made her do some digging of her own. She found more and more things that were shady about the Kirijo group that gave her more questions and more confusion for what Mitsuru was truly hiding from her. But eventually, after some time, they ended up at Yakushima and the sick, nasty vacation home of Mitsuru. And there, she found the truth. In short, her father was the person behind the cause of the Dark Hour. This whole time she believed that he was a good person. However, he was the cause of so much pain and misery in the world. While Mitsuru's grandfather was the one who conceived the idea, he knew the dangers of it all, but was blinded by the promise of success, so he kept on proceeding with the experiment, eventually leading to the Dark Hour coming to be. And hearing this broke her. She thought that it was fate that gave her this power, but this idol that was the reason that she was fighting shadows caused the whole situation where she did have to fight. She knew the truth, and now there was no reason for her to fight. And she was lost without any direction. The night that she found all of this out, though, Makoto came to comfort her. At first she thought that he was just there to fetch her by the command of Mitsuru, but that certainly wasn't the case. He was genuinely worried about her, because he knew that this flipped her world upside down. Yukari was a bit defensive at first whenever he came to comfort her, because what could this guy that seemed like he had it all together tell her? But he basically held her tight and told her to keep on going, even if she didn't have a reason to fight. It may be hard to accept, but life has to move on, and she can take as long as she needed to accept this, but she could not just give up right here and now. And these words started to resonate with her. He had been in a very similar situation as her, with his parents dying and all. So maybe he was onto something. So she decided to give it a shot, with her eventually finding a new reason to fight. To be with Cease. After this interaction, she started to open up a bit more with the rest of the group, becoming more and more friendly with everyone. Even Mitsuru, who she absolutely hated, she started to care about her. She was always just so envious of her. Her father got to live when hers had to die. It wasn't fair in her eyes, but Yukari learned that she was going through a lot as well. And especially when Mitsuru's father died right in front of all of them, she was sympathetic. She knew the pain that she was going through, and she wanted to be there for her. So, she buried the hatchet and decided to become friends with her, albeit through a bitch slap, but hey, it still worked! And it wasn't just Mitsuru. She started to become friends with Fuka, Akihiko, Ken, Koromaru, Shinjiro, Stupe Ace Defective over here, and of course, Makoto. She wanted to protect all of them. For the first time since her father passed away, she felt like she had a family, and she didn't want anything to happen to them. And with her powers, she could be able to do just that. It didn't matter what happened in the past to her anymore. Her future was right in front of her, and she was going to keep on fighting for that. But she wasn't totally right with her thinking. You see, Akutsuki had originally tampered with the footage that Takeru showed them of Ichiro explaining that he was responsible for the Dark Hour. And Fuka was able to salvage some of the original footage, which she gave to Yukari. So she watched it just for some more lore, and the truth shook her to her very core. And I don't want to rehash what I've already said in chapter 1 of this video, so TLDR, Yukari's father basically started the Dark Hour to basically give Yukari a better future. And with her faith restored in her dad, she was able to continue on fighting to help save the world from the Dark Hour, like her father tried to long before her. But you might be thinking, what about all the grievances she had with her mom? Was she able to overcome that? And you'll see that you'll have all your questions answered in Yukari's social link. Or at least to an extent, but it kind of just sounded cooler if I said it like that. The social link started right around when you get back from Yakushima, depending on if you maxed up your charm rank or not. And Yukari just wanted to say that she was sorry to Makoto. She said some hurtful things and she wanted to apologize. She felt this way because she always had this desire to be normal. She just wanted a family to come home to, and she knew that Makoto was in the same situation as her, and yet she still blew up in his face like that. She wanted to make things right from that because she thought that maybe they could lean on each other. So the two started to become close friends, hanging out all the time. And Yukari opened up about her family troubles, about how her and her mom were not on great terms. During this social link, Yukari got a call from her mom. She told her that she found this new guy and loved him so much that she even wanted to marry him, but she wanted to get the approval from Yukari first. Yukari was taken aback by this. I mean, she wasn't opposed to the idea of her getting married, but she didn't like the way that she lived her life. How she was jumping from guy to guy, eventually ending up with someone new. And Yukari didn't think it was fair at all to her dad. However, she couldn't control her mom. She just told her she could do whatever she wanted, and that she didn't want her to call her again. It sounded a bit harsh when she said that, but Yukari didn't want to end up like her. Yukari believed that she was just running away from the pain instead of confronting it. She believed that clinging on to others to run away from your problems was the worst thing that you could do. And she wanted to deal with her own problems head on. She wanted to show her mom that she could be happy that way, and that maybe she could be able to do the same. However, this ends up biting her in the ass, because one day she lost her wallet while they were on the train, and she wanted to go retrieve it, telling Makoto to wait behind while she grabbed it. And this group of thugs had her wallet. She tried to get it back, but she was cornered. They were not going to give up that easily, and they were not at all threatened by Yukari. In fact, they were telling her that she would be losing much more than her wallet if she decided to keep this up. And when they told her this, she didn't know what to do. Luckily, Makoto sensed that something was up and showed up just in time to protect her, and he beat the shit out of those thugs. However, Yukari was lukewarm about this whole interaction. She thought that she had it all covered, and she told him that she didn't need help. She wasn't helpless, and she was able to get her wallet back before he even showed up. She was offended that Makoto had thought that she could handle this on her own, and Makoto apologized. He just wanted to help, but he realized that he might have overstepped their boundaries. However, Yukari apologized back to him. She just didn't like needing to depend on other people, yet it just happened to her. She liked working things out by herself, because that's always how it's been with her. She felt as if she needed to be strong, and couldn't be her true self. She had always been pushing people away because of her family situation, but recently, that's changed. Now there was at least someone that cared to come to her rescue in her times of need. Makoto helped her come out of her shell a bit more, and helped her start to look on the brighter side of things. She even decided to accept that her mom was getting remarried. It was her choice after all, so she shouldn't stop her from doing it. She even decided to meet up with her to talk about it because she wanted to face her. Things might get ugly, and she might even say something terrible to her face, but this was something that Yukari had to do. This was because Yukari realized that it must have been really hard on her mom as well. It must have been so hard for her to lose somebody that she loved so much, and Yukari thought that she just needed someone to help her through that. And Makoto helped her realize this because she was in love with him. She had started to lean on him to get through this difficult situation throughout the entire story, and her feelings had grown stronger and stronger for him ever since that night he helped comfort her. And she found Makoto to be really cool for beating the shit out of those thugs, so that's a W right there. She wanted to spend the rest of her life with Makoto, and maybe she would be able to face all of life's most difficult challenges now with him at her side. And that was Yukari's social link, and honestly, I just loved every second of it. Even through my multiple playthroughs, it was just peak euphoria, peak cinema, peak game. That's not supposed to be there. I don't know how that got there. It's not like that's my ringtone or anything like that. That's not mine! Stop! Cut the camera! Was it fan servicey at times? Yes, but that's what made it so amazing! We gotta spend more time with this well-written character, and we gotta learn more about her backstory. And while that's true for Fuka and Mitsuru, I don't know, it's just something about Yukari that just kind of makes me feel for her and just feel all sorts of emotions whenever I was playing her social link and shit. I don't fucking know. But that is not where Yukari's story ends. In fact, she is one of the main characters that has so much character development in episode Aigis. The main conflict that everyone had to face in the story was dealing with the loss of Makoto. And while it was hard for everyone in the group to deal with, I feel as the people that were most affected by this were Aigis,
obviously because her name is in this title of the DLC story,
and Yukari. When Makoto passed away, it was a huge shock to Yukari. This person that was this beacon of light that helped guide her through her darkest times was gone as soon as he showed up in her life. While it was brief, it really helped her out, and she wished that she could have done so much more for him. But she understood that he wasn't coming back, so she tried to keep on going with her life because that's what she thought he would have wanted. While she was a bit distant from Cease, she was just trying to grieve on her own to maybe move on from this tragedy. However, when March 31st started to repeat itself over and over again, she was thrown back into a similar situation where she met Makoto, and every second of it was painful for her. Every turn, not only was she reminded by the painful past before she met Makoto, but Aigis also had the same powers as him. This really frustrated her so much, because why did she, out of all of them, get his powers after he died? Yukari cared for him just as much as everyone else did, and she actually went to go say her goodbyes to him, unlike Aigis. On top of that, Aigis got to hear his last words, so it was doubly frustrating for her. To her, it felt like Aigis didn't care about him the way that she did, and she wished that she got his powers to show that he felt the same way about her. But there was really nothing that she could do other than go through the abyss of time and find her way out. And eventually they all got their keys to exit the abyss of time, and she learned about the options that she had. They could all return to the present, or they could all go back to the past for real. And this was a huge surprise for Yukari. She could finally be able to see Makoto off, and maybe even try to save him from having to give up his own life. To her, it felt like a no-brainer. She could be able to help Makoto in a huge way, just like he did with her. However, not everyone agreed with her line of reasoning, and this led to everyone clashing in the Colosseum for their own ideals. And Yukari was not on the victor's side. Rather, it was Aigis. Because Aigis won, she wasn't going to let everyone return to the past, and this was very heartbreaking for Yukari. When she heard that she could return to the past and be with Makoto once more, it felt like she could finally get the closure that she desired to have with Makoto. And how she was never going to get that. She was just going to have to keep on living with the idea that she would never be able to see him again. And she had been jealous of Aigis this whole time because of everything that she got from Makoto. His final moments, his powers, and arguably the biggest impact from him. And she just wished that it was her instead of Aigis. However, as we know, Aigis was able to forgive her because she completely understood how she felt. In a way, they were going through the same thing, but they were dealing with it in completely different ways. And in fact, she had an idea on how they could deal with this pain that both of them were feeling. And that was to visit the night that Makoto sealed away Nyx to see what he did that caused him to die. That way they could truly know what happened, and Yukari was fully on board with this. Maybe this could be a way for her to see him off. And when she saw Dorkun and the monster that he was stopping from causing the end of humanity, she understood everything. He gave up his life so that they could keep living theirs. He cared about them all so much that he was willing to give up his physical form to make this spell. And now that she was aware of that, she was able to accept that he'd passed. There was an actual reason for him passing away, and it felt as if she was finally able to see him off. And now that she came to terms with this, she was able to move on with her life and continue living it for Makoto instead of trying to forget him. And this part of Yukari's story was epic because I was not expecting this. Sure, I knew that Aigis was gonna have some character development during this DLC campaign because it's literally titled Episode Aigis, but seeing Yukari get some time in the spotlight and shine, like, that was amazing. This extra storyline in the DLC was like completing the trilogy of Yukari's story, because the base game was about her coming to terms with her father's death. Her social link was about her coming to terms with relying on others with an emphasis on Makoto because, as we all know it, say it with me now, he is a hunky Giga Chad! And her story in episode Aigis completed that trifecta by having her accept to not just rely on one person, but learn to rely on everyone that was around her. It's such a pronounced arc in this game, and it just makes her like top 3 best characters in this entire game. Overall, Yukari is just S tier, 11 out of 10, would let her say good boy to me again. Stop!